Hey everyone, and welcome to Physics at Home for today. Today what we're going to look at is something sliding down a ramp and the impact that friction and gravity and kind of the push and pull that happen between the two of them. So for today's experiment, you're going to need a handy dandy force meter. So if you haven't done so already, head over to my hooks video 1 and you'll be able to figure out how to turn an elastic band into a force meter. You'll notice that on the ends of my force meters I've got two paper clips, and that's just to help me kind of grip things a little bit better, have something to pull and something to anchor from. Other things that you're going to need is some kind of measuring device. So I've got a ruler here. It's taped down to the table. You can have it free or taped down. It's totally up to you. You're also going to need a textbook. So this is just, it doesn't have to be a textbook. It could be a cookbook. It could be a variety of different things. And essentially what you're going to be doing is looking at if, you'll need one more thing, a table. So this is sitting on a coffee table currently. So what you're going to do is you're basically going to look at what angle do I lift my coffee table to before my textbook begins to slide down. And essentially what you're looking at is what is the moment in which gravity is greater than the static force of friction between this textbook and this table. So this experiment is basically two different parts. Part 1 is establishing what is the coefficient of friction between these two surfaces. So for your table, it doesn't have to be a coffee table. It can basically be lifting anything you can lift up to turn into a ramp. So it could be a piece of wood, like a plain board. It could be your kitchen table. It could be a coffee table. Anything that's flat that you're able to lift up in a ramp position. That's pretty much what we're looking for. And then the second thing you're going to need then is a textbook, and we need to find out the coefficient of friction between this textbook and this table. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take our handy dandy piece of equipment here. I'm going to just stick it to my textbook, and I'm going to anchor it down so that when I pull on this, it doesn't slide. So just give me a minute to anchor this down here. Hopefully it doesn't come off. If it does, then we just have to figure out a better way to anchor, but hopefully this will be okay. All right, so first thing you're going to do is just pull your force meter so that there's no slack in the line. I'm going to use chalk to mark mine off. You're also more than welcome to mark off where you are on your ruler. I like to mark off where I start and where I finish just with sidewalk chalk or a washable marker or something like that, because then I can measure the distance between those two really easily. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pulling really gently, making sure this is horizontal. Keep going until my textbook starts to move. Okay, so let's just establish now. I kind of get a feel for it. So I think it's there, yeah. So then I'll mark down that point. Here then gives me my stretch. This force then allows me to figure out what the applied force is to overcome the force of friction. If I use a scale, then I can figure out the mass of this textbook. If I don't have a scale at home, the mass of the textbook should be great enough that your bathroom scale should be totally fine. If you don't have a scale at home, give Amazon a quick check. Google that textbook that you're looking at, see what its shipping weight is, and then there's your mass that you can use for when you are doing your calculations. So why do I care? I need this stretch value because that's going to allow me to know, along with the spring constant, which I should already know for my elastic band, I now know my force applied, or my max force of friction, right? Max force of static friction. I know that this has a mass. I can then use that to find my force of gravity. Because my system is completely horizontal right now, my normal force is then going to be equal to my force of gravity. So then I know that my normal force is. So between my force max static and my normal force, I can then find the coefficient of friction between this table and this textbook. Okay. So that's kind of step 1 for it. Step 2, you don't actually need your force meter anymore, so you're more than welcome to get rid of it. And what essentially we're going to do is you can approach this in 2 different ways. One is you can actually do the experiment. So then you would leave your textbook here, lift up your table until you get to a point where it slides, and then take a look at what angle you're at and measure it with a protractor. If you didn't bring a protractor home with you, then what you can do instead is the other way. Crunch through the calculations, doing your free body diagrams and your net forces and all that kind of fun stuff. Crunch your calculations and find out what you think the angle will be at which point my max static friction has been overpowered and I'm going to start sliding. When you get that, you should be able to visually kind of estimate where you should be, because obviously this is going to be at 90 degrees, here would be at 45. So if I did my calculations and came out that it's going to be closer to 20, well then I know it's going to be halfway between here and here, so then my angles. So you should be able to eyeball them pretty well, just to see or verify if your calculations are correct or not. So anyway, so it's pretty straightforward and simple. All you're going to do is you're going to come around to the end of the table. You'll lose me now, and you're just going to gently start lifting your table up, increasing the angle slowly until the book starts to slide. And there we go. Hold that angle, and then either you can take a look at it or you get your friend to take a look at it, grab a protractor and measure it. And that, my friends, is friction and ramps. Enjoy your physics day at home.